3 months had passed since humanity's disappointing introduction to the Galactic Council. The humans had been given a small embassy on the space station that orbited the Council homeworld. Captain Minho spent his days in diplomatic meetings that went nowhere. Dr. Park tried to publish papers about human biology, but no alien scientists took her work seriously. Major Lee trained with alien security forces who treated him like a fragile guest rather than a fellow soldier. Then everything changed. The emergency alarm started ringing throughout the space station at 0300 hours. Red lights flashed in the corridors and announcement systems crackled to life in dozens of languages. All council members report to emergency session immediately. Priority 1 crisis situation. Captain Minho and his team rushed to the council chamber. When they arrived, they found chaos. Alien representatives were arguing loudly in their various languages. Some were pacing back and forth. Others were flashing different colors, and a few were making sounds like warning sirens. Ambassador Geltar stood at the center, trying to restore order. When he saw the humans enter, he waved them over. "Captain Minho," he said, his forearms gesturing frantically. "We have a situation. The mining colony on Thakmor Prime has gone silent. Complete communication blackout for 72 hours. Dr. Park pulled up information about Thakmor Prime on her datapad. Her face went pale as she read. This planet has a hazard class C rating. Toxic atmosphere, extreme temperatures, violent storms, dangerous wildlife." "Exactly," Geltar continued. "The colony has 300 workers from various species. They mine quantum crystals that power our most advanced technology. Without those crystals, several worlds will lose their energy sources." A massive Vorthak representative looking like a walking mountain of crystal approached their group. Its voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "We sent our best rescue team 2 days ago. They lasted 6 hours before we had to evacuate them. The acid storms melted through their equipment." Another alien, covered in thick metal armor, joined the conversation. This was a Kelrani warrior, one of the toughest species in the galaxy. "Our assault team tried next," the Kelrani growled. "The native creatures there are enormous. We lost 3 soldiers before we could retreat. Our weapons barely scratched those monsters." Captain Minho listened carefully. "What exactly makes this planet so dangerous?" Geltar activated a holographic display of Thakmor Prime. The planet looked angry. Its surface was covered in swirling red and orange clouds. Lightning flashed constantly through the atmosphere. Surface temperature reaches 180 degrees Fahrenheit during the day, Geltar explained. The atmosphere is filled with sulfuric acid. Storm winds reach 200 miles per hour. The native animals are massive predators that hunt in packs. The terrain is unstable, added a floating brain creature. Volcanic activity changes the landscape daily. What was solid ground yesterday might be a lava pit today. Dr. Park studied the data. The atmospheric pressure is 3 times Earth normal. The radiation levels would kill most species within hours. "Yes," said the Vorthak representative sadly. "This is why we cannot mount another rescue operation. We have lost too many good people already. The colonists are probably dead by now." Captain Minho looked at his team. Dr. Park was reading more data. Major Lee was studying tactical information. Both looked determined rather than scared. "Ambassador Geltar," Minho said quietly, "would the council consider allowing a human rescue mission?" The chamber fell silent. Every alien eye, sensor, and attention device focused on the small human captain. The silence stretched for long moments before nervous laughter began to spread through the chamber. "Captain," Geltar said gently, "I appreciate your courage, but this is impossible. If the Vorthak and Kelrani could not survive on Thakmor Prime, how could humans possibly succeed? Your species is classified as Class F fragile. This planet would kill you in minutes." The Kelrani warrior stepped closer. "Human, I have fought on 100 worlds. My armor can withstand plasma fire and energy blasts. The creatures on that planet tore through my armor like paper. Your thin skin would not last seconds. Our crystals can reform if damaged," added the Vorthak. "The acid rain dissolved parts of our bodies that took days to regrow." "You cannot regrow lost body parts." Captain Minho remained calm. "We understand the risks. But those colonists need help now. Every day we wait, their chances get worse." "This is madness," said a snake-like alien with dozens of arms. "Sending Class F beings to a Class C hazard world is not rescue, it is suicide." But Dr. Park stepped forward. "Members of the council, humans have experience with hostile environments. Earth has deserts where temperatures reach 130 degrees. We have Arctic regions where temperatures drop to -80. We have storms, dangerous animals, and toxic areas. The aliens exchanged looks that clearly said they thought the humans had lost their minds. Ambassador Jeltar sighed. If you insist on this course of action, we cannot stop you, but we will not be responsible for your deaths. Understood, Captain Minho replied. We will need transport to Thakmor Prime and basic equipment. What kind of equipment? Asked a mechanical alien. Major Lee consulted his notes. Standard environmental suits, basic weapons, portable shelters, communication gear, and medical supplies. The aliens were shocked by how little the humans requested. That is all? The Vorthak asked. We brought massive life support systems, advanced weapons, armored vehicles, and emergency evacuation pods. And still we failed. We prefer to travel light, Minho said simply. 2 hours later, the human rescue team was assembled in the shuttle bay. Captain Minho had selected his people carefully. Sergeant Kim Daeho was Special Forces, trained in hostile environment operations. Engineer Oyuna specialized in field repairs and improvised solutions. Medic Han Soo-jin could treat injuries with limited supplies. Dr. Choi Ji-hoon was a geologist who understood dangerous terrain. The alien observers gathered to watch the humans depart. Most expected to be planning a memorial service within hours. Good luck, humans, Ambassador Jeltar said sadly. We will monitor your signals as long as possible. The shuttle ride to Thakmor Prime took 6 hours. During the flight, the team studied everything they could about the planet and the missing colonists. The mining facility is built into a mountain, Dr. Choi explained. The colonists should be protected from the worst of the storms if they stayed inside. The native creatures are called Thakmor stalkers, Sergeant Kim read from the files. They are 6-legged, 12 feet tall, with armor plating and acid spit. They hunt in packs of 10 to 20. Engineer O reviewed the facility schematics. The main power plant is in the lower levels. If we can get it running, we can restore communications and life support. Medic Han prepared medical supplies. The colonists have been without proper life support for 3 days. We should expect dehydration, poisoning from atmospheric contamination, and injuries from the storms. As they approached Thakmor Prime, the shuttle pilot, a nervous Etherian energy being, spoke through the communication system. Humans, I am detecting massive storm activity across the entire hemisphere. Acid rain levels are at maximum toxicity. I can drop you at the mining facility, but I cannot wait. The storms will damage my ship. Understood, Captain Minho replied. Just get us down there. The descent through Thakmor Prime's atmosphere was violent. The shuttle shook and rolled as acid rain hammered the hull. Lightning flashed so bright it hurt to look at. The wind grabbed the small ship and threw it around like a toy. Through the viewports they could see the planet's surface. It looked like a vision of hell. Red and orange rocks stretched to the horizon. Geysers of steam shot up from cracks in the ground. Rivers of lava glowed in the distance. The shuttle touched down near the mining facility with a hard bump. Through the windows they could see the building partially buried in orange sand. Acid rain ran down the walls like liquid fire. There, the pilot said, pointing to an airlock. That is your entrance. The atmospheric readings outside are very bad. Are you certain about this? Captain Minho looked at his team. Everyone was checking their equipment one final time. Their environmental suits looked thin and simple compared to the massive armor the Vorthak and Kelrani had worn. We're certain, Minho said. The shuttle's airlock opened, and the humans stepped out onto Thakmor Prime. The first thing that hit them was the heat. Even through their environmental suits, they could feel the temperature. The air was thick and heavy. In the distance, they could hear sounds like thunder that never stopped. Atmospheric readings confirmed, Dr. Choi said, checking his instruments. Toxic levels of sulfur dioxide, extreme acidity, radiation levels at dangerous but not immediately lethal levels. They moved toward the mining facility's airlock. The acid rain made everything slippery, and the wind tried to knock them down with every step. Sergeant Kim took point, his weapon ready. Behind him, the others moved in formation exactly as they had trained. They reached the facility's outer door. Engineer O connected her equipment and began working on the lock mechanism. The storm damaged the outer systems, she reported. But I can bypass them. Give me 2 minutes. While she worked, the team watched their surroundings. The landscape looked empty, but they knew the stalkers were out there somewhere. Got it, O announced. Oregon. Back on the Galactic Council space station, Ambassador Zeltar stared at the monitoring screens with growing confusion. The human rescue team had been on Thakmor Prime for 18 hours, and they were not only alive but making progress. "This cannot be right," muttered the Vorthak representative, its crystal body flickering with nervous energy. "Check the sensors again." The mechanical alien operating the monitoring equipment ran another scan. "Sensors are functioning correctly. The human team is currently in the mining facility's lower levels. They have restored partial power to 3 sections." Zeltar felt all 4 of his hearts beating faster. When the Vorthak rescue team had attempted the mission, they had barely made it inside the facility before the toxic atmosphere began eating through their life support systems. The Kelrani had lost contact with their people within 6 hours. "How are they surviving?" asked Captain Veltara of the Hegemony Enforcement Fleet. She was a proud warrior from a species known for their strength and endurance. "Our environmental suits are made from the finest materials in the galaxy. Theirs look like simple fabric." Dr. Quindrill of the research collective leaned forward, her massive brain pulsing with curiosity. "Perhaps we should examine the human equipment more closely. There might be technology we do not recognize." But Zeltar was already pulling up the inventory list from the human shuttle. Standard atmospheric suits, basic tools, simple weapons, portable power cells, and medical supplies. Nothing we have not seen before. The truth was starting to make him uncomfortable. Either the humans had somehow hidden advanced technology from them, or there was something about humanity that the Council had completely misunderstood. Meanwhile, on Thakmor Prime, the human team was discovering exactly why the alien rescue attempts had failed so quickly. Sergeant Kim found the first alien survivor in the facility's medical bay. It was a Kelrani warrior, barely alive. His thick armor was melted and twisted. Parts of his body were covered with chemical burns. "Medic," Kim called softly. Han Soo-jin hurried over and began examining the wounded warrior. She worked quickly and efficiently, using supplies from her simple medical kit. Severe acid burns, dehydration, possible internal injuries from atmospheric poisoning, she reported. "But he will live." The Kelrani's eyes opened weakly. When he saw the humans, he tried to speak. You came back?" he whispered. "But you are only Class F. How are you here?" "Rest," Han told him gently. "We are here to help." As she treated the warrior's injuries, something became clear. The alien rescue teams had not failed because they were weak. They had failed because they had relied entirely on their equipment and technology. When the harsh environment of Thakmor Prime damaged their systems, they had no way to adapt. The humans, by contrast, had prepared for their equipment to fail. "Suit breach in Section C7, Engineer O reported over the radio. Acid got through the seals. Can you repair it?" Captain Minho asked. "Give me 10 minutes, O replied calmly. She did not panic or call for evacuation. Instead, she used materials from the mining facility to patch her suit. She sealed the breach with a piece of metal and some industrial adhesive she found in a maintenance closet. Dr. Choi was mapping the facility's structure when he discovered something troubling. "Captain, the lower levels are flooded." The storm surge broke through the foundation walls. Instead of seeing this as an impossible obstacle, Captain Minho saw it as a puzzle to solve. "Can we drain it?" he asked. "The main pumps are offline," Choi replied, "but there are backup systems on level 3. If we can reach them, the water is probably contaminated with acid and toxins," Sergeant Kim pointed out. "Then we will need to move carefully," Minho decided. They spent the next 4 hours working their way through the flooded sections. The toxic water came up to their waists. Their suits were not designed for full immersion, but they made it work by moving slowly and checking each other frequently for leaks. When Engineer O's suit developed another breach, she did not retreat. Instead, she used a piece of plastic sheeting and some tape to create a temporary seal. When Sergeant Kim's breathing system began to malfunction, he switched to emergency backup and kept working. The alien observers watching from orbit were amazed. "They are adapting," Dr. Quindrill said with wonder. "Every time their equipment fails, they find a new solution." "But how?" asked the Vorthak representative. "When our equipment failed, we had no choice but to evacuate." "Look at their behavior patterns," suggested a floating brain creature. "They do not rely on any single system. They have backups for their backups." Ambassador Zeltar was beginning to suspect that something was very wrong with humanity's classification. He pulled up the original survey data for Earth and began to read it more carefully. The file was surprisingly thin. Most planetary assessments filled hundreds of pages with detailed information about climate, geology, biology, and environmental hazards. Earth's file contained only basic data from a single automated probe. "Where is the complete survey?" he asked his assistant, a small robot. "Still being processed," the robot replied. "The original probe malfunctioned and provided limited data." "When will the full assessment be complete?" "Unknown. The file has been in the queue for over a year." Zheltar felt a cold sensation in his stomach. The council had made decisions about humanity based on incomplete information. What if they were wrong? He began making calls to various departments, trying to access more complete data about Earth. What he found made him increasingly nervous. Earth's preliminary classification listed it as a stable, temperate world with moderate environmental challenges. But there were notes in the margins. Comments from probe technicians that had been ignored. Unusual weather patterns detected. Atmospheric composition shows signs of violent chemical activity. Geological readings indicate high volcanic activity. Biological scans detected large predatory species. These notes had been dismissed because the main probe data suggested a peaceful world. But what if the main data was wrong? On Thakmor Prime, the human team was proving that their adaptability went far beyond equipment repairs. They found a group of colonists trapped in a collapsed section of the facility. The standard approach would have been to use heavy machinery to clear the debris. The humans did not have heavy machinery. Instead, Dr. Choi studied the collapse pattern and identified weak points in the debris pile. Sergeant Kim used controlled explosions from mining charges to shift the rocks. Engineer O built a simple pulley system to move the largest stones. It took them 6 hours, but they freed the trapped colonists without heavy equipment or advanced technology. "How did you know where to place the charges?" asked one of the rescued miners, a crystalline being whose body was cracked from the stress. "Experience," Kim replied simply, but it was more than experience. The humans approached problems differently than other species. When aliens encountered obstacles, they typically used technology to overcome them. When humans encountered obstacles, they looked for creative solutions that used whatever was available. When they found that the facility's main computer was damaged beyond repair, Dr. Park did not give up on restoring communications. Instead, she built a simple radio transmitter using parts from mining equipment and emergency supplies. When they discovered that the facility's water recycling system was contaminated, Medicon did not despair. She found ways to purify water using basic filtration methods and chemical treatments from the medical supplies. Every problem led to a solution. Every failure led to adaptation. The rescued colonists, who came from a dozen different species, began to see the humans in a new light. "They do not give up," whispered a snake-like Gorvani miner. "When their equipment breaks, they fix it. When they cannot fix it, they find another way." "I have never seen anything like it," added a Kelrani supervisor. "They make tools out of garbage. They make water out of poison. They find ways where there are no ways." The word began to spread among the survivors. The fragile humans were not fragile at all. They were something else entirely. Back on the space station, Ambassador Zheltar finally gained access to classified files about Earth. What he found there made his four hearts stop beating for several seconds. Earth was not a peaceful garden world. The file he was reading described a planet of constant violent change, massive storms that could flatten cities, temperature swings that ranged from burning deserts to frozen wastelands, earthquakes that split continents, volcanoes that blocked out the sun for years at a time, and the life forms. The file described creatures that would terrify most galactic species, predators the size of buildings, microscopic organisms that could kill in hours, plants that were poisoned to touch. "This cannot be right," he whispered. But as he read further, the pieces began to fit together. Humans had not evolved on a peaceful world. They had evolved on one of the most dangerous planets in known space. That explained everything. Their adaptability was not a skill they had learned. It was something they had evolved over millions of years of surviving impossible challenges. Their ability to work with broken equipment was not training. It was instinct developed by ancestors who had to make do with whatever they could find. Their refusal to give up when faced with obstacles was not courage. It was a survival mechanism that had been bred into them by a world that killed anything that could not adapt. The Great Council Chamber had never been so quiet. 2 weeks had passed since the revelation about Earth's true nature, and the galaxy was still trying to understand what it meant. Supreme Counselor Nethavar, the highest authority in galactic civilization, stood at the center of the chamber. His ancient form glowed with soft light as he spoke to the assembled representatives. "Today we correct a grave error," he announced. "The species known as humans has been misclassified due to incomplete data and flawed assumptions. We gather today to formally acknowledge their true nature and extend our deepest apologies." Captain Minho and his team sat in the front row, still wearing the simple uniforms that had become famous throughout the galaxy. They looked exactly the same as they had months ago when the aliens had laughed at their fragility. But now, no one was laughing. Ambassador Geltar stepped forward, carrying a ceremonial document that glowed with official seals and signatures. "Captain Kang Minho, Dr. Park Jiwon, Major Lee Seungwon," he began. "On behalf of the Galactic Council, I formally apologize for our failure to properly assess your species. We judged you based on surface appearances rather than deeper understanding." He paused, looking around the chamber at the hundreds of alien representatives. "Humanity is hereby reclassified as Class S, Specialized Survivors, a new category created specifically to acknowledge your unique capabilities. You are invited to join the Galactic Council as full members, with all the rights and responsibilities that membership entails." The chamber filled with sounds of approval from dozens of species, but the sounds were different from the mockery of months before. These were sounds of respect, admiration, and in some cases awe. Captain Minho stood and bowed respectfully. "We are honored by this recognition, and we accept membership in the Council. Humanity looks forward to working with all species for the benefit of galactic civilization." Dr. Quindril of the Research Collective floated forward, her massive brain pulsing with excitement. "Captain Minho, if I may ask, would humanity be willing to share knowledge about survival techniques? Many of our colonies face environmental challenges that your people might be uniquely qualified to address." "Of course," Dr. Park answered before Minho could respond. "We would be happy to establish exchange programs and training facilities." The questions came quickly after that. Would humans consider assisting with hazardous world surveys? Could human engineers help design equipment for extreme environments? Would human medical experts share their knowledge of trauma treatment? Each request was met with the same answer. Humanity was eager to help, but not every response was positive. War leader Krextoth of the Supremacist Coalition stood up, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber. "This revelation changes nothing about the potential threat humans represent," he declared. "Any species capable of surviving a Class X Deathworld could easily conquer Class A and Class B worlds. We should be discussing containment, not partnership." The chamber fell silent. This was the fear that many had not spoken aloud. If humans could survive anything, what could stop them from taking whatever they wanted? Captain Minho rose slowly. His voice was calm but carried clearly through the vast space. "War Leader Krextoth, I understand your concern, but you make the same mistake the Council made when they first met us. You assume that strength must equal aggression." He gestured to his team. "We could have used our abilities to dominate other species. Instead, we used them to save lives. We could have demanded tribute or territory in exchange for our help. Instead, we offered it freely." Major Lee stood next to his captain. "War leader in human military doctrine, true strength is measured not by what you can destroy but by what you can protect." The supremacist leader was not convinced. "Pretty words, but actions speak louder. How do we know you will not change your minds when you realize your full power?" It was Dr. Park who answered, her voice gentle but firm. "Because changing our minds would mean abandoning everything that made us strong in the first place. Humans survived on Earth not through conquest but through cooperation. We learned that helping others made us safer than hurting them." She activated a holographic display showing images from Earth. "Every human city is built on the same principle. We are stronger together than apart. Every human achievement comes from people working together to solve problems. Our strength is not individual power. It is collective wisdom." Ambassador Geltar nodded thoughtfully. "The rescue on Thakmor Prime proves this point. The humans did not succeed through superior force or advanced technology. They succeeded through teamwork, adaptability, and refusal to abandon others in need." Over the following months, humanity's integration into galactic society proceeded rapidly. Human specialists were soon working on dozens of worlds, helping other species deal with environmental challenges that had previously been considered impossible. Engineer Oyuna established the Emergency Response Training Academy, where aliens learned human techniques for equipment repair and improvisation. Her most popular class was called Making Do with What You Have. Dr. Choi Ji-hoon led geological survey teams to worlds that had been written off as too dangerous to explore. Using human techniques for navigating unstable terrain, they discovered valuable resources on planets that other species had avoided for centuries. Medic Han Soo-jin founded the Trauma Treatment Institute, teaching alien doctors how to treat injuries and illnesses in field conditions without advanced medical equipment. Her methods saved lives on dozens of frontier worlds. Sergeant Kim established the Hostile Environment Operations School, where military personnel from across the galaxy learned human tactics for operating in extreme conditions. But perhaps the most important development was Dr. Park's Interspecies Adaptation Institute. Here, scientists from every major species worked together to understand how different forms of life could thrive in challenging environments. The Institute's first major success came when they helped the crystal-based Vorthak develop new techniques for surviving in acidic environments. The silicon-based beings had always avoided such worlds, but human research showed them how to create protective barriers using materials they had never considered. The Institute's second breakthrough helped the energy-based Etherians learn to maintain coherence in high magnetic environments. Humans, who had evolved with Earth's strong magnetic field, understood concepts that the Etherians had never encountered. Soon, the Institute was handling requests from across the galaxy. Species that had been limited to certain types of worlds were learning to adapt to new environments. Worlds that had been considered uninhabitable were being colonized successfully. But the real measure of humanity's integration came during the Kepler Station. Crisis Kepler Station was a massive research facility in deep space, home to scientists from 15 different species. When a solar flare damaged their main power systems, the station began drifting toward a black hole. The rescue seemed impossible. The station was too close to the black hole for normal ships to approach safely. The gravitational forces would tear apart any rescue vessel before it could dock. The Council was preparing to declare the station lost when Captain Minho volunteered for the mission. "Approach is suicide," insisted Captain Veltara. "The gravitational shear will destroy your ship before you can reach them." "Maybe," Minho replied. "But humans have experience with impossible rescues." The mission required techniques that no other species had ever attempted. The human ship had to use the black hole's gravity to accelerate to incredible speeds, then reverse thrust at precisely the right moment to match the station's trajectory. It was like threading a needle while riding a roller coaster during an earthquake. But humans had evolved to function under stress. The worse the situation became, the more focused and capable they became. The rescue succeeded. All 847 scientists and staff members were evacuated from Kepler Station before it crossed the black hole's event horizon. When the rescue ships returned to Council space, they found the entire galaxy waiting to celebrate. Supreme Counselor Nethvar presented humanity with the Galactic Medal of Honor, the highest recognition in galactic civilization. "Today, we honor not just courage but wisdom," he said. "Humanity has shown us that true strength comes not from the ability to dominate, but from the willingness to serve." Ambassador Lee Minji, humanity's new permanent representative to the Council, accepted the medal on behalf of all humans. "We are grateful for this recognition," she said, "but we want the galaxy to understand that what we have achieved together. Human strength is not individual talent. It is the product of cooperation, mutual support, and shared determination to overcome challenges." She paused, looking around the chamber at the hundreds of alien representatives who had once dismissed humans as fragile and useless. "Every species in this chamber has unique gifts. Our role is not to replace those gifts, but to help them flourish. We are not humanity first and galactic citizens second. We are galactic citizens who happen to be human." As the ceremony ended, a new plaque was installed outside the council chambers. It read, "In recognition of humanity's extraordinary contributions to galactic civilization, from the harshest world came the gentlest people. From the greatest challenges came the greatest cooperation. Ambassador Zheltar stood before the sealed doors of the Council's highest security archive. His forehands shook as he entered his access codes. The information he was about to reveal would change everything the galaxy thought it knew about humanity. The archive doors opened with a soft hiss. Inside, floating holographic displays showed the complete, classified assessment of Earth. The real assessment, not the incomplete probe data that had been used to classify humans as Class F fragile biologics. "Computer," Zheltar said, his voice barely a whisper. "Display Earth's true planetary classification." The hologram shifted, and new text appeared in glowing letters that seemed to burn themselves into Zheltar's vision. Classification, Class X, Apex Deathworld, the highest rating possible. Zheltar had never seen a Class X rating applied to any inhabited world. Most species evolved on Class A or Class B worlds. Only the strongest, most aggressive species came from Class C worlds. But Class X was theoretical. It was the rating for worlds so dangerous that the Council assumed no intelligent life could evolve there. Display. Detailed analysis, he commanded. The information that followed made Zheltar sink into a nearby chair. His legs felt weak, and his skin had turned a pale blue with shock. Earth's weather systems regularly produced storms with the power of nuclear weapons. Hurricanes with winds over 200 miles per hour, tornadoes that could destroy entire cities, lightning strikes that could split trees and melt sand into glass. The planet's surface was unstable. Earthquakes could reshape entire continents. Volcanic eruptions could block out the sun for years. Tsunamis could cross entire oceans and destroy everything in their path. But the weather and geology were not the worst parts. The biological assessment made Zheltar's 4 hearts race with terror. Earth was home to creatures that belonged in nightmares. The file described predators with crushing jaws, venomous fangs, and hunting strategies that would challenge military tacticians. Great white sharks that could bite through steel. Saltwater crocodiles that had remained unchanged for millions of years because they were already perfect killing machines. Polar bears that could smell prey from 20 miles away and run faster than most galactic ground vehicles. And those were just the large predators. The microscopic life was even more terrifying. Viruses and bacteria that could kill in hours. Parasites that could control their host's behavior. Fungi that could take over entire ecosystems, but how? Zheltar whispered. How did intelligent life evolve in such conditions? The answer was in the final section of the report. Humans had not survived despite Earth's dangers. They had survived because of them. Every challenge had made them stronger. Ice ages had taught them to cooperate and share resources. Predators had taught them to make weapons and work together. Diseases had strengthened their immune systems. Natural disasters had taught them to adapt quickly to changing conditions. The report included a detailed analysis of human psychology. Humans did not just tolerate stress and danger. They actually became more effective under pressure. Their bodies produced chemicals that enhanced their strength, speed, and thinking during crises. Other species tried to avoid danger and discomfort. Humans had evolved to embrace it, overcome it, and learn from it. No wonder, Zheltar said to himself. No wonder they succeeded where we failed. He activated the communication system and sent an urgent message to the emergency council session. Every member needed to see this information immediately. Meanwhile, on Thakmor Prime, the human rescue team was completing their mission in ways that defied everything the aliens thought they knew about the fragile species. Captain Minho led the final group of survivors toward the surface. They had rescued over 200 colonists from various species. The mining facility was now empty except for equipment that was too damaged to salvage. Storm's getting worse, reported Sergeant Kim from his position near the exit. Visibility is down to almost nothing. The acid rain is coming down like a waterfall. Wind speed, asked Captain Minho, over 150 miles per hour, gusting to 200. Any sane species would have waited for the storm to pass. But the humans had learned that on Earth, storms did not always pass quickly. Sometimes you had to move through them. We go now, Minho decided. The colonists cannot survive much longer without proper medical treatment. They organized the survivors into groups. The stronger aliens helped support the weaker ones. The humans spread throughout the formation, one at each key position. Engineer O had rigged up communication devices so they could stay in contact despite the storm. Dr. Choi had mapped the safest route to the evacuation point. Medic Han had treated everyone who could be moved and made the tough decisions about who needed to be carried. "Remember," Captain Minho told his team, "we have done harder things than this." It was a strange thing to say. No other species in the galaxy would have considered anything harder than crossing an acid storm on a Class C hazard world. But for humans who had evolved walking across African deserts and Arctic tundra, this was just another challenge. They moved into the storm. The wind hit them like a physical blow. The acid rain stung any exposed equipment and made the ground slippery. Lightning flashed so frequently that the landscape strobed between day and night, but the humans did not panic. They had trained for conditions like this because Earth had conditions like this. When a gust of wind knocked over a group of Etherian energy beings, Sergeant Kim was there to help them up. When the acid rain began eating through a Vorthax crystal structure, Engineer O quickly covered them with a protective sheet. When they reached a section where the ground had been torn apart by wind erosion, Dr. Choi found a safe path through the debris. When several colonists collapsed from exhaustion, Medic Han somehow managed to treat them while walking through hurricane-force winds. The alien colonists began to understand that they were witnessing something unprecedented. The humans were not just surviving in these conditions. They were thriving in them. "How do they do this?" gasped a Kelrani warrior who was being supported by the much smaller Sergeant Kim. "Practice," Kim replied simply. But it was more than practice. It was evolution. Every human instinct had been shaped by millions of years of dealing with exactly these kinds of conditions. Their ancestors had faced ice storms, sandstorms, electrical storms, and every other kind of dangerous weather Earth could produce. They reached the evacuation point just as the rescue ships arrived. The alien pilots had waited until the last possible moment, when their sensors showed the storm beginning to weaken. As the survivors were loaded onto the ships, word of the successful rescue spread throughout the galactic communication networks. The species that had been dismissed as fragile had just completed a mission that the galaxy's strongest warriors had failed to accomplish. Back on the Council space station, Ambassador Geltar stood before the emergency assembly holding the classified Earth assessment. The chamber was packed with representatives from every major species. "Members of the Council," Geltar began, his voice carrying to every corner of the vast room. "We have made a terrible mistake." He activated the holographic display and Earth's true classification appeared above the assembly. "Class X Apex Deathworld," he announced. The chamber erupted. Voices raised in dozens of languages. Some aliens stood up in shock. Others made sounds of disbelief. "Impossible," shouted the Vorthak representative. "No sapient species can evolve on a Class X world." "The classification system must be wrong," insisted a Kelrani general. "We have fought on Class C worlds and barely survived. Class X would kill anything that tried to land there." Geltar waited for the noise to die down. "The assessment is correct. Earth scores maximum danger ratings in every category. Extreme weather, unstable geology, deadly fauna, toxic biological agents, and atmospheric conditions that would be lethal to most galactic species." Dr. Morthek, the Council's chief xenobiologist, floated forward. His massive brain pulsed with rapid thoughts. "If this is true," he said slowly, "then everything we know about human biology needs to be reconsidered. Their apparent fragility is not weakness. It is efficiency. They have evolved to survive with minimal resources because their world provided minimal resources. Their pain tolerance is not normal," added Dr. Quindrell. "It is enhanced. They had to evolve high pain tolerance to survive the injuries that would be common on such a dangerous world." "Their adaptability," said another scientist, "is not learned behavior. It is instinct. They adapt quickly because slow adaptation means death on a Class X world." The pieces were falling into place. Human psychology, biology, and social behavior all made sense when viewed through the lens of extreme survival pressure. Captain Veltara of the Enforcement Fleet stood up. "If humans are products of a Class X death world, then we need to reconsider their military potential. A species that evolved to survive such conditions would be formidable in combat. They are not aggressive by nature," Geltar assured her. "The assessment shows they are highly cooperative and diplomatic. Their survival strategy was based on working together, not fighting each other." But war leader Krextoth of the Supremacist Coalition was not reassured. Any species capable of thriving on a Class X world is a potential threat to galactic stability. We should consider containment protocols. No, said Ambassador Zeltar firmly. Captain Kang Minho stepped through the airlock of the massive alien ship called Harmony. His boots made soft sounds on the strange metal floor. Behind him walked Dr. Park Ji-won and Major Lee Sung-won. All three humans wore their best uniforms, but they felt very small in the huge corridors. The ship was enormous. The ceilings were so high that Minho had to crane his neck to see the top. Strange lights floated in the air without any wires or supports. The walls seemed to be made of some kind of living metal that shifted colors as they walked past. Stay close, Minho whispered to his team. Remember, we represent all of humanity today. Dr. Park nodded. She carried a data pad with information about Earth and human biology. She had spent months preparing for this moment. Major Lee kept his hand near his weapon, though he knew it would be useless against the advanced aliens they were about to meet. They followed a floating robot down several corridors. The robot looked like a silver ball with blue lights. It spoke in perfect Korean, which surprised them. The Galactic Council is ready to meet the human delegation, the robot said. Please prepare yourselves for a historic moment. They reached two massive doors that were at least 20 feet tall. The doors opened slowly and bright light poured out. The humans walked forward into the largest room they had ever seen. The council chamber was like a huge stadium. Hundreds of alien beings sat in curved rows that went up and up until they disappeared in the distance. The aliens were all different shapes and sizes. Some looked like giant crystals that sparkled in the light. Others were covered in thick armor plates. Some glowed with their own light, while others were so dark they seemed to absorb light around them. In the center of the room was a small platform. A voice spoke from everywhere at once. Welcome, representatives of the species called humans. Please step onto the speaking platform. The three humans walked to the center. Minho felt hundreds of alien eyes watching their every move. Some aliens whispered to each other in languages that sounded like music, others like grinding stones, and some like electronic beeps. A tall, thin alien with purple skin and forearms stepped forward. Its voice was smooth and pleasant. I am Ambassador Zeltar of the Nexari people. I serve as the Council's expert on new species. We have studied your preliminary data and we are curious about your kind. Dr. Park stepped forward. Thank you for this opportunity. We are honored to represent humanity and Earth. From the audience came what sounded like laughter, but not the pleasant kind. It was the sound people make when they think something is funny in a mean way. A massive creature that looked like it was made of living rock stood up. Its voice boomed across the chamber. These are the humans? They look so fragile. Their skin is thin like paper. Where are their claws? Where is their armor? Another alien, this one covered in spikes and metal plates, joined in. Look how small their muscles are. And their bones. The data says their bones break easily. How do they even walk around? More laughter filled the chamber. An alien that glowed like a star spoke up. They cannot even see electrical fields or magnetic waves. How do they navigate? How do they communicate properly? Ambassador Zeltar held up one of his four hands for silence. He activated a holographic display that showed information about humans. The data floated in the air above the platform. According to our initial assessment, Zeltar announced, humans are classified as Class F fragile biologics. This places them near the bottom of the galactic survival scale. The chamber erupted with sounds. Some aliens laughed. Others made clicking noises, and some hummed in what seemed like amusement. A snake-like alien with dozens of arms spoke up. Class F? That is almost the lowest rating possible. Most Class F species need help just to leave their home planets. Indeed, said another alien that looked like a walking tree. Class F species typically require environmental suits to visit any civilized world. They cannot handle temperature changes, pressure differences, or atmospheric variations. Dr. Park tried to speak. If I may explain about human adaptability, but her voice was drowned out by more alien chatter. A creature that looked like a giant insect buzzed loudly. Adaptability? Look at their data. They can only survive in a tiny range of temperatures. Their atmosphere needs to be exactly right or they die. They need liquid water constantly. They are completely helpless. Major Lee's jaw tightened, but he remained silent. Captain Minho put a gentle hand on his arm. A group of aliens that looked like living metal began making sounds like computer programs talking to each other. One of them spoke in a voice like a robot. Our calculations show that humans would die on 97.3% of known habitable worlds without extensive life support systems. They are unsuitable for any standard galactic operations. Ambassador Jeltar nodded sadly. Yes, this is why we must classify humans as a protected species. They will need special care and assistance to participate in galactic civilization. The word protected seemed to trigger another wave of condescending sounds from the alien audience. It was clear they thought humans were like helpless children who needed to be looked after. A crystalline being that sparkled like a diamond spoke in a voice like wind chimes. Perhaps we should build them special habitats, like we do for other fragile species that cannot care for themselves. They might need robotic assistance, suggested an alien that looked like a floating jellyfish. Most Class F species require constant monitoring to prevent them from accidentally harming themselves. Dr. Park felt her face grow red with anger, but she kept her voice calm and professional. Respected council members, I think there may be some misunderstanding about human capabilities. While our bodies may seem fragile compared to yours, humans have survived and thrived on Earth for thousands of years. We have adapted to live in deserts, frozen wastelands, high mountains, and deep jungles. We have built civilizations that span our entire planet. An alien covered in thick fur and sharp teeth laughed. Your entire planet is probably a paradise world with perfect conditions. No real challenges or dangers, other aliens agreed. Class F species always evolve on gentle worlds, said one. Worlds with mild weather, friendly animals, and abundant food. That is why they are so weak, added another. They never had to become strong. Ambassador Jeltar looked at his data again. I see here that Earth's preliminary survey is still being processed. The initial probe data suggests a stable, temperate world with standard biological diversity. Captain Minho finally spoke. His voice was quiet but firm. Members of the Council, I believe there may be more to learn about humanity than your initial data suggests. We would welcome a more complete evaluation. But his words seemed to amuse the aliens even more. The rock-like creature from before spoke again. More evaluation? What could we possibly learn that would change anything? Your own data shows that you break easily, tire quickly, and need perfect conditions to survive. These are simple facts. Perhaps, said a floating brain-like creature surrounded by tentacles, we should simply assign them a nice, safe colony world where they can live peacefully under our protection. They clearly cannot handle the challenges of real galactic civilization. The session continued for another hour, but it was more of the same. Every time Dr. Park tried to explain human achievements or adaptability, the aliens would point to the biological data showing human physical limitations. They compared human strength to their own massive muscles, human speed to their own swift movements, and human senses to their own enhanced perceptions. Finally, Ambassador Jeltar called for order. The Council has made its decision. Humanity will be granted protected species status and assigned to the non-hazardous activities category. They will be provided with appropriate life support and safety measures for any interstellar activities. As the session ended, the human delegation was escorted back to their quarters. The corridors seemed even longer now, and the floating lights felt less magical and more alien. In their small room aboard the Harmony, the three humans sat in silence for several minutes. Protected species, Major Lee said finally, his voice bitter. They think we're helpless pets. Dr. Park stared at her data pad. They didn't even look at half the information I prepared. They just saw our physical limitations and made up their minds. Captain Minho stood by the window looking out at the stars. They don't know us yet. They will. None of them knew that buried deep in the galactic bureaucracy, Earth's true planetary classification waited in a file marked pending full assessment. The automated probe that had surveyed their world had malfunctioned, providing only surface-level data. The real information about Earth, about its storms, its predators, its challenges, and what kind of beings could survive there, remained hidden. For now, the galaxy saw humans as fragile, weak, and helpless, but that was about to change.